Mike sends his sincere apologies and would have come definitely. He also gave me about 50 slides, which I've had to cull. So you've got, opportunity to ask him lots of questions. We acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation on which Murdoch University is situated, and we also acknowledge the fantastic co-authors that are involved in this work. This is a project that stemmed out of Mike speaking at a conference with collaborators from New Zealand, and he saw their data set and he thought it would be an amazing opportunity to get some of that literature out there that Heather Crawford was talking about this morning, and talking about trap neuter release. We've come to this question a couple of times, a couple of talks, what's in a name? This is a talk about unowned cats, so it's mostly around urban areas, so stray cats, but acknowledging that stray cats could be feeding into the feral cat population. Why should we be managing unowned cats? Well, the first one is for their welfare, and wherever we talk with cat owners, it's really important that we emphasise that it's really in the benefit of their cats to be protecting them from the risks if they're out on the roads. It's also to protect wildlife from predation and disease spread, and to reduce the public health risks because of the numerous zoonotic pathogens that are potentially transmitted by cats. So what are our management options? And there's three main ones that keep coming up. The first one is trap and remove, i.e. culling animals. And this is obviously met with a lot of resistance from people, particularly motivated from the people who have to handle and euthanize those animals. And it's a massive moral obligation for them, and they feel it deeply. And so there's been a lot of pushback against culling. And they are particularly strongly advocating for trap neuter release. So this is where stray cats are trapped, they're desexed, they're vaccinated and hopefully wormed as well, and then they're returned. Now, there's a number of case examples where people have demonstrated that they believe the number of cats are able to be reduced as a result of trap neuter release, but there's certainly plenty of examples where that's not the case. And I welcome you to go into some of the literature and look at that. Now, the third alternative is the example that we're going to talk about today, and this is trap, assess, resolve. This is where stray cats are trapped, they're desexed, they're vaccinated, and then they're adopted, and there's a strong push for them to be found homes. And this is a program that has been run by Lonely Meow, so this is run out of Auckland for the last 33 years. And they've been collecting excellent data, which has enabled us to look at what's actually happening, what's the fate of these cats, and put some numbers to some of the theories around whether this is a success or not. So we have data for the last 20 years, and some of the key points for this are that 52% of the cats that are brought in as part of this program are less than 10 weeks old. So there's a lot of breeding happening on the streets. So Auckland, New Zealand, they've got a lot of people with cats. So they sit at around 40%, 41% of households have a cat. That compares with Australia sitting at around 30%. So there's a lot more cats when you drive around the streets. They don't have as many restrictions as well. So there's lots of people who have cats, and there's lots of cats breeding on the streets. Note, less than 2% of all of these cats were more than 5 years of age. So cats have a very short life on these streets. Another important thing, 22% of all of these trapped cats required veterinary treatment on capture. And some of them were reasonably minor things that could be treated. So ringworm could be treated with wormers, but some of them go to very severe trauma. This is an important statistic that we need to keep in our heads when we're talking to people about why cats shouldn't be let back on the streets, because a lot of them are suffering. The fate of these cats. So they had to euthanize around 22% of cats, and that's some of them due to trauma and illness, but also due to temperament. But they've been able to adopt 2/3 of these cats, and in some years they got it up to 80%, and that's an amazing, successful story, and that's brilliant. So now, when we compare management options, so trapping and removing, obviously it removes cats from the streets, means they don't have a distressing death on the streets. Wildlife and public health are addressed as well, because we can fully protect our wildlife and fully protect public health. Trap neuter return. There's some indication that fighting can be reduced because we reduce the intact cats. If we can vaccinate them and worm them, we can improve welfare. In terms of wildlife and in terms of public health, however, as long as cats are contained, those adopted cats can be reducing our risk, but if they're not contained, then we've still got cats that are potentially going to be causing problems. The trap, assess, resolve is going to mean that we can remove cats from the streets, and the welfare of those cats is going to be much greater and much more improved. There's much better outcomes for wildlife and for public health as long as those cats are contained. My key point here, if we're going to talk to people about management options, it's not just a choice between culling and putting them on the streets, but we need to also accommodate and acknowledge that adoption and assessing and resolving these issues is actually a better way of dealing with it. And if you've got questions, please ask Mike.